Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force, and today we're going to take a look at Savage Dragon number 2 and 3, the last two issues in the Savage Dragon miniseries. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a quick cut to the promo where I pay the bills. So every video I start off by saying, hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force. You probably just heard it. And in case you weren't sure, this is Blood Force. Blood Force is a comic book I'm creating. It is a celebration slash send-up of 90s extreme comics. And the first issue is complete. We're just kind of in limbo while I get the funds together for publication. And if you'd like to speed up that process, what you do, you go to the link in the description that will take you to my Patreon. Subscribe there, because I need your help in order to get this thing over the finish line. And warm fuzzies from helping a comic creator are not all you get by subscribing to my Patreon. You also get access to the entire Blood Force library, which is growing by the week, as well as all these videos and some exclusive content. So subscribe today, and soon we'll all get the Blood Force comics we've been waiting for. Thanks very much for listening. Now we'll get back to your regularly scheduled video about speed lines and shit. So, Savage Dragon. This was the result of actually the first Twitter poll I tried. And Savage Dragon won out. So, I guess the channel's not quite ready to move to its ultimate, final destination where it's just a Brigade commentary channel. Not yet. We'll get there eventually. So, Savage Dragon started out as a miniseries, as all of the Image titles kind of did, which is understandable. The creators, they weren't used to operating on their own. They're used to having everybody handle the minutiae. Like, they're going to draw and they're going to try writing. Yeah, some of them more successfully than others. But there's a lot of day-to-day stuff that they don't know yet if they can actually do. Luckily, they do have a lot of money to work with in order to kind of fuck around and make mistakes. But still, you don't, even if everything does turn out okay on that end, you're not 100% whether the crowd is going to be okay. Was it actually the artwork or was it the characters? Is it like, maybe if these guys come up with shitty characters, they're not going to stick around. Well, I think they were pretty sure that wasn't going to be the case, but, you just want to, hedge your bets a little bit. So, Savage Dragon number 1. Here, I'll just pull that up. Of course, that one sold 850,000 copies, was pretty much a success. Not the super high-end stuff at Image, but definitely held its own. And we've taken a look at issue number 1 already, and it was pretty fucking great. So today, we'll start with issue number 2. So this is, we'll get right into it. Enter Super Patriot. Erik Larsen is bound and determined to just introduce as many of his guys as he can. There's a quote from back in when he was still at Marvel, and he was saying how he was holding back. I remember Peter David criticized him quite a bit for him. And I get the feeling that he was drawing the Marvel stuff and drawing stuff that, he was like maybe introducing the odd character that he wasn't particularly invested in. And he's like, God damn it, I want Super Patriot. I want Mighty Man. And Mako and Cyberface. And all those guys, whatever the fuck their names are. And he couldn't quite do it until, he got into his own comic here. So now he's all exuberant, and he's going to break out all of his creative energy on this thing, which, he actually is. And so start out, we'll look at the cover here. Pretty good cover again. Very colorful, as usual. Apparently, Erik Larsen was coloring these himself, I think with like markers or something. And just the intensity of the color, it's pretty great. Really got into it with the highlights on the fins and stuff, and all the muscles. So he's got an interesting color design anyway. And this is the scene cut straight out of the comic. The logo here, the logo itself is great. The design, it is a little tough to read with the debris and it just kind of being opaque. But I don't know how often he tries it again. He won't on the next one. I do know that the Image guys did like the idea of interacting with the cover. So, just like this kind of thing here where you've got somebody overlapping with it. Again, Eric Larson does it on each of the covers here to some extent or another. Not too much, but a little bit. And that's an interesting idea, making it opaque and showing some of the underlying artwork. But yeah, it does kind of confuse the issue. All right, and this is, I mean, I can read off the credits on this, but on an Eric Larson book, it's not exactly necessary. We know most of it's going to be Eric Larson. The stuff that isn't is going to be Chris Eliopoulos, basically. Gregory Wright, the colorist, that's the same guy who did #1, so should be pretty good. And Ollie Optics doing the color separations, because Eric Larson is not messing around. He's not going to get, what was it, Digital Chameleon. Yeah, didn't look that great, did it? Okay, so we're starting off. And this is, again, early days of Dragon as a police officer. Now we get kind of muted colors because I think this is going to be some garish subject matter where a giant Spider-Man, in quotes, has been capturing children and stringing them up in the sewers and feeding off of them. That's a hell of a spread. And I believe this is Eric Larson's, his go-to is to start off with a bang. Did it, of course, in Savage Dragon #1. Start with a splash page. Same here. And then go to the double splash. I don't know that this is going to get repeated throughout. Take a quick look at #3. I do know they start with the splash page again. That's a nice one, actually. And I think they do, actually, too. Yeah, they do. Okay, so that's his deal. And I like it. But apparently that's a Kirby thing. Or at least the... Eric Larson did an interview recently with cartoonist Kayfabe. Unfortunately, right before I did this. It would have been nice if I'd gotten that out first. So I'm not just parroting it, but... it, of course, does give me a fair bit more insight than I had, so that's something, I guess. Apparently, the Jack Kirby thing is, yeah, just kick off with a bang, and he's going to do that as much as he can, and that's the best way to go, I would say. I've already said with things like Youngblood, with Wildcats, they start too slow. Spawn takes issues before it really kicks off. You know, and meanwhile, Savage Dragon is already trucking along. We've got our main characters. We've got our main villains, a little bit. They were at the end of the last issue. And we've got the scenario. And we've had a good couple of fights under our belt already. And this is Arachnid, by the way. And he's just a big, bloated mental patient. I don't know, in the sewers here. And we're going to get some good... Eric Larson fights. And the Chris Eliopoulos lettering, I feel like, can't really be understated. It does add a lot, and there's a lot to it. It is a little silly, too. But that's kind of in theme, you know. And stuff like, "Croc," I assume that's an exclamation, not an L. Yeah, I think so. And "Babaloosh." But like the whams, you know, like that's like... I don't even know if that's a template or not. It feels like it. And but it's, I don't know, it's just a nice graphic element. And I think we saw in the Cyberforce #0, filling a page up with lettering during a fight. It adds an interesting extra element that I've never really considered before these. And so he's gonna... Where did the wire come from? Wire comes down. Dragon leaps up, hangs onto the ceiling, which is quite a bit higher than it was previously, feels like. Unless this is like way in the background. Oh well. And electrocutes Arachnid. I'm not sure where the wire came from. Is it here? It's not really here. That's just a Deus Ex Machina wire. That's fine. I mean, you know, you only want to spend... This is already, what, 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6 on the first fight. And I mean, you know, your first 3 pages of your first fight are all splash pages. So, considering how much Eric Larson wants to pack into this issue, okay, you just wrap it up. And this is a bit, I don't know, where Arachnid is sort of a stand-in for Marvel, the company, where he's been feeding off kids, and years have made him soft, fat, and lazy. He'd gotten too big for his own good, didn't put up much of a fight. Just a little bit of commentary. Like, even when I was 12, I'm like, oh, he's talking about Marvel. All right. I mean, you're just gonna take down Marvel, just gonna kick him right off the shelves? I don't know. Still, it's amazing the damage he's done. The remains of the dead seem to go on forever. Somebody had to put an end to this inhuman. Like, now it's like, okay, so what is this still metaphor? I don't know. Do you honestly feel this strongly about Marvel? He might. And then we're gonna cut back to Dragon when he first wakes up in the hospital and he gets his nickname. That's like the point of this whole thing, this whole page, is how he gets the name Dragon. As the nurses just decide to call him Dragon. And yeah, that's like it. And Frank offers him his place to stay in. And again, he's going to really pack it all in there because he doesn't want to spend 2 pages on this. He's got too much stuff to talk about. And then this is the aftermath of the warehouse fight where the Vicious Circle, the gang, blow it up and they kill Frank's cousin. And yeah, this is sort of sped up, giving you, like, it's interesting. These are almost like vignettes. And this is determining that Savage Dragon is, I just can keep calling him Savage Dragon instead of Dragon. That's going to bug me. Oh well. But Dragon is inhumanly accurate with a gun, and he doesn't know why, and it bugs him. It's a little RoboCop moment there. But yeah, this is it's interesting. You can almost like just take those out and splice them into just about any issue and say before. It's a cool technique. I don't mind that. And then we get Super Patriot, who we have seen once before in Savage Dragon #1. When he first met him, before he'd invite him to stay at his place. Frank and his wife are talking about how much help he could be. And they see on the TV that Super Patriot has been hospitalized. So brought into the hospital today with both arms and legs crushed beyond repair and half of his face missing. And so here we go. He's been rebuilt. And Super Patriot is essentially Captain America, I guess. And this is an interesting composition. Eric Larson knows what he's doing. So they did talk about this briefly in the interview. I can't remember what his answer was. I mean, this is just like everything leads to the crotch shot here, right? Like all the wires guide down here. The stripes are all just like, look at this. And you could have, I feel like you could have got around that if you'd like tilted the image so it's more bird's eye viewish. You don't get that sense of him being kind of still being of stature, I guess. Him being kind of large. He feels more small. But that's an interesting decision. So we get a little bit of back and forth with his neighbor, who's kind of skankily dressed, but you still get the impression she's supposed to be like Girl Next Door kind of thing. I don't know. And just Eric Larson's a little leery, you know. So there's not much of a point to this, really, except I think Dragon really wants to have the thing where his girlfriend gets assassinated at the end of the miniseries, and then at the beginning of the regular series, he's all depressed and dark, and you know, he's Riggs essentially. So that bit ended with Savage Dragon being called back on the job. Apparently there's a mall that has been taken hostage by members of the Vicious Circle. They want to beat Dragon up. That's what they want. And we're going to get a cool shot of Dragon on a motorcycle, kind of. This is another interview thing. Apparently Eric Larson hates drawing vehicles. I'm right there with you. And so he's not going to draw Dragon riding a motorcycle. There you go. He's going to get his friend to draw a motorcycle, and then he's going to draw a dragon around it. So, that's good stuff. And this thing here that looks kind of Magnolia-y, I think this was so that none of this conflicted with the people in the next panel. And then we get a big old splash page introducing the Vicious Circle. And yeah, they're just taking a bunch of hostages. And there was a thing here where it's like, earlier today he brought in the accused child-devouring, web-spinning mutant Spider-Man, who calls himself Arachnid, after an amazing battle. And then later on they say, the three have been identified as Basher, Hellraiser, and the Shark Man, known as Mako. I feel like that was thrown in there as a little, just, I don't know. Please don't sue me. You know, I don't like you, you don't like me, and I'm going to take digs at you, but you're not going to actually sue, right? So he shows up. This is an interesting solution, because you want stuff leading to Dragon. And that's tough to do, because the focus of the page is still the Vicious Circle guys. So it looks like what he did to try and get around that, you would have thought it would have been like a perspective thing. He didn't really do that, a little bit with the floor. But it's more like how these guys are lined up. So you get that triangular composition kind of thing. It's interesting. I mean, you know, you don't miss the word balloons. I don't know how successful it is, but it's an interesting try at a solution. Anyway, so he's like, let him go. They're like, sure, take him. And they huck all the hostages at him, which is pretty great. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that before, like before this particular issue anyway. Just really showing how callous and evil the villains are. And we get another poster in the middle of this. Nice little bonus. And, I mean, Dragon's trying to save a couple, but, he can't save, like, dozens of people. And, so yeah, he's just going to fly right at him. And you get, this is an effect I actually kind of wanted to talk about earlier with Arachnid. This is just, I'm guessing this is just the blood kind of spraying up from all the hostages hitting the ground. But he did this earlier, too, and it's kind of a dirt thing. And it's nice and effective. It's not like it's not stippling. It's not spray from like a toothbrush or anything. I would guess maybe like just a really old busted brush, and take it like when it's dry and just like take it and just bap 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 maybe. It's a pretty good effect though. Yeah, it looks like he's used it a couple times here, and he's gonna fly right at him. All speed lines, and all his speed lines are coming here too. And they held a little boy in reserve, and nice little going against the grain. If he goes against the speed lines, it does kind of give you that like kind of slamming on the brakes thing. And this thing here, which I thought was cool when I was a kid, I think I still was fully aware of how impossible it was. But this is a really cool shot anyway, where it just like right in front of him decides to flip over him and grab him and slam him into the dirt here. And now they're just going to beat on him for a while. Not too long. This is going to be a bit of a long fight, actually. And we're showing again and again that the easiest way to hurt Dragon is to, hey, I remembered, it's only Dragon, is to cut him. And if you cut him, he's going to bleed all over everything. And then we get the reiteration of the cover here. These hands don't seem to belong to anybody who was in the issue, but that's okay. And these are the guys who, I believe, killed him. And he kills Basher flat out. And that gets pretty gory. That's pretty good. And Dragon immediately is like, he's doing the police thing. Where, you don't kill him. And, they killed me first. And he's going to beat on him for a while, right up until his splash page. And this is going to be another thing where Dragon kind of keeps being the underdog, actually. Even though he's largely invulnerable and super strong, and I thought he was super tall, but in the letters page in this, they point out that he's supposed to be 5'10". I don't know that that really holds up. But that makes sense, too. So you got to keep putting him in situations where being invulnerable and super strong isn't always going to win. Or you get somebody who's more invulnerable and super strong, I guess. And then, yeah, his fellow officers point out that he's a police officer, and that just completely throws off Super Patriot. You get the nice big splash, wham. And, yeah. And Dragon is cut so bad that he bleeds, he starts to bleed out, essentially. And you get the kind of a color hold thing where everything around them is all the same color so that we don't lose focus of Dragon here. But there's blood all over the place because of, you know, the Vicious Circle guys getting killed. Well, I think just one of them got killed. And then all the hostages getting killed. And then I guess it was maybe just in the trade, where you actually get the bit where Super Patriot escapes, but he's not conscious. It's more like his limbs just kind of spider away. And a little bit of backstory, and it's Eric Larson himself answering all the letters, so that's nice. And he's talking about why this issue's late right off the bat. How late is it? July to October. August, 3 months. Okay, but he's saying here that he, got married and had like a 3-week honeymoon. So it's like, okay, I guess that's a good reason. And then a bunch of raving letters, which to be fair, deserved. Then we get an ad for Cyberforce and Wildcats, and again an image on Wildcats that I don't remember seeing very often, but I don't know, it still feels a little better than the cover for number 1. I wonder if this got tossed out because Warblade here. The Warblade here looks kind of goofy. I don't know what the hell that guy's doing. I'm going to perch, and I'm going to point, and I'm going to stretch out my middle finger. Alright. So let's move on to issue 3. Another super colorful cover. And Battles Bedrock. And we're going to tell you exactly what happens in this issue. That's all that happens, really. And yep, so we start off with Big Splash with Die at the Hands of Inferno. And then Die. So it's, again, we're kicking off strong, but it does eat up a good amount of real estate just to start things off. And he's taken care of immediately. And this is carrying over from the end of issue 2, where he was, cut so much he bled out. And then he heals super fast, so that's useful. Yeah, we get an actual timeline here that the cuts on his head healed in a day, and everything else. This is 9 days after the mall fight. And this is when we're told that Super Patriot got away, but didn't appear to be conscious. And also Skullface from issue 1. 3 guesses which one that was. I think it might have been that one, but hasn't said for sure yet. He has been released because of not enough evidence that he was linked to the explosion. Okay, why not? And all the women get. They all like Savage Dragon. Damn it, I had it down. And now we're cutting to... This is our first big shot of the big bad, Overlord. And we're actually explaining the fight at the end of issue 2. So, it was just a bunch of supervillains took over a mall, took hostages, and said they wanted to fight Savage Dragon. Which is a comic booky enough reason to have that fight, I suppose, but it is super stupid. Here we're finding out that there was a reason for it. That those 3 were getting a little too ambitious. He wanted to get rid of Dragon, and Super Patriot wanted revenge against those three vicious circle guys. So they kind of arranged for this setup. And Super Patriot was basically supposed to kill everybody. Or, everybody, yeah, Super Patriot was supposed to be last man standing. And didn't happen. So Overlord is cutting ties with cyber data. So again, kind of reinforcing that the image world is sort of linked, but you're not going to see a whole lot of crossover-y stuff. That said, this is sort of the first big crossover issue, isn't it? And here we get Amanda Mills, who I think was the woman at the end of Savage Dragon #1, when there was the gunfight and the hostage situation, who Dragon rescued. And, of course, she's going to reward Dragon for rescuing her with sexy times, because that's what the women do. And then the nurse busts in on him, and he's like, oh, no, she was just leaving. Oh, okay. So now I get the sexy times, right? And he's like, yeah. And then Dragon's leaving the hospital here, and he's getting jumped by reporters who immediately kind of jump to maybe he's a murderer or a child molester or something. And we're jumping to another double-page spread. That's our second of the issue with Bedrock. He is Bedrock here, right? Yeah. Attacking Dragon for no reason. Good shot. Like, the characters, like, fill up the pages. Like, these guys are massive. And that's going to be basically the rest of the issue. And I'm just, like, looking at... I don't know, I'm looking at a bunch of stuff. But one of the things that stands out for this stuff is the colors. We've been looking at Youngblood, and we looked at Shadowhawk, we looked at Brigade, Supreme, and it's all kind of weird and not entirely appropriate. And this stuff is just perfect. This is exactly the kind of coloring this particular kind of thing should have. Like the higher end, you get some minor separations in here, every once in a while. But it doesn't go nuts. It's not trying to do anything weird. It's still pretty flat colors for the most part, just a little bit of gradation here and there. And it's super vibrant. And that works kind of perfectly. And he's doing the same thing with lettering, or Chrysiliopoulos, I guess. And so we start out in the park here, and then I guess this is the hospital again. It doesn't say specifically, but yeah, they bust into the hospital, then they bust into the elevator shaft, and we get our coupon for Image Comics #0, and the revisit for that should be coming eventually. And one more poster. And then more fighting in an elevator shaft. And Bedrock's really not defending his reasons for attacking Savage Dragon. We don't even really know why yet at this point, other than just he wanted to fight. And he's saying how awesome Youngblood are. And here we get Spawn. There's a lot of little crossovers in this one, isn't there? And then it turns out these guys, this is Eric and Rob, I think. Yep, Rob, look, it's that new superhero. And Spawn thinks he's talking about them. It's like, yeah, oh, cool, look at him, Eric. So, yeah, they're freaking out because of the interview that Savage Dragon was in earlier. And Spawn doesn't like glory seekers. And, yeah. And I'm pretty sure this kind of stuff got cut out once the main series got going. But in the beginning, they didn't know how much they were going to cross over, so why not? This whole page is kind of interesting, with like the nice big shot, breaking the panel border, him going flying. Very Simonson-y. And then you get your speed lines, and then this same thing where he does the time lapse kind of thing, where basically the background and some sort of and his opponent freeze for a second. But it's actually going to get broken down into 4 panels where Dragon does a flip over them and doesn't move. I mean, I'm going to flip to it, but you know what I'm talking about. So, same thing here. Big drawing, and then, yeah, doing the time-lapse thing. And, of course, that basically makes this movement be, it seems like slow motion, so he's moving super fast because he's moving, in like I said, a slow motion flip, but everything else is completely frozen. So it's like bullet time. And dragging Boots, Bedrock out of the hospital, says, hope he can swim, and then there's a second of, well, maybe he can't. But nope, turns out he was just waiting for him to come down so he could sucker him. And now we get an underwater fight, which should be completely ineffective, but maybe not. And then they pretty much end up back in the park, I think. But we had our nice little switch around in our locales, so that's all right. And then somebody else sees Dragon from that interview, and it's just a little subplot he's setting up with this woman who thinks that Dragon's her son. And and then Bedrock's like, he gives up. But in that, he's supposed to be like a 12, 13-year-old kid, something like that. So he gives up in the way a 12 or 13-year-old kid would, where he's just like, stop, okay, come on, knock it off. I remember doing that when I was 12 or 13. And then he reveals that the only reason for the fight was just to see if he was tough enough to join Youngblood. And that pisses Dragon off so much that he's going to just give him the one last double-page spread. And saying that that's fucking stupid. Which it is, but that doesn't usually get called out. And he's under arrest for doing, well, they say thousands of dollars of property damage. It's probably a fair bit more than that. And he does call out Marvel Comics one more time. It happens in Marvel Comics all the time, like specifically. And then Savage Dragon gets home, and girl, neighbor from earlier is outside. And we've seen how Dragon is with girls, so we know where that's going. And then Shaft and Die Hard break Bedrock out of jail while they bail him out. And so he was just doing this without any kind of permission from the Youngblood guys. I guess they're just allowed to do this. I don't know. This is how they recruit people. And then we're going to end the miniseries with the revelation that Frank ratted out his cousin. Basically told the Vicious Circle guys that he made a shit ton of money. So they should go rob him because Savage Dragon was working there, and they knew that would get him. I don't know. They figured that would get him on the side of the police force. And then, of course, his cousin died. So kind of, it wasn't good intentions, really. He did try to get his cousin robbed, but he figured everything would turn out okay in the end, and they really didn't. They all blew up in his face. All right. And then we get one last letters page here. A lot of Q&A. He's determined to answer as many questions as he can without actually revealing too much. And we finish up with some art by Jeffrey Scott, who will shortly win, get drafted by Jim Lee and Homage Studios and start drawing Gen 13 before he starts calling himself J. Scott Campbell. All right. So there we go. That's the end of the Savage Dragon miniseries, and I'll do the full series eventually. But not the full series. Good God. I'll do the first little bit. Like a few issues. And, this is still the cream of the crop for Image titles. Like, he just delivers on exactly what he promised. He's going to give you the second intense issue, the third rockin' issue, the first brutal issue, where it's just action, action, action. But he's still, he's introducing as much side stuff as he can because he's got all these ideas that he wants to get out there. And he doesn't know for sure that he's going to go for another 250 issues at least. So he wants to get stuff set up immediately. And the fact that he was able to do that and still go for 250 issues is pretty impressive. But yeah, still the best stuff at Image. You can argue whether it's the best drawn, but it's certainly top of the line for what they've got. He's on a par with guys like Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri, and it is absolutely the best written stuff, and it's exactly what he promised it was going to be. So yeah, kudos to him. That's it. Even these first 3 issues are a hell of an accomplishment. They did more than any other Image comic was able to at the time. So yeah, you can always go and pick these up if you want. They all had pretty high print runs, so they're not super expensive. They're still pretty easy to find, and it's the best stuff from that era. This is when people talk about extreme 90s comics. This is what they're talking about. Definitely check it out if you haven't. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you'll be advised when I drop another one of these. Go over to my Twitter, follow me at Team Blood Force. I also always drop the link there. Most importantly, go over to my Patreon and subscribe there because I need your money if I'm going to get Blood Force on the shelves. I was going to say it'll be as good as Savage Dragon. Well, maybe not the miniseries anyway. But it'll be better than Brigade anyway. So somewhere in between those far extremes. But thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.